Welcome to Tabletop Gaming Guild. Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experience and memories that playing tabletop games with friends and families can create. Today we'll be talking about the ethos of scoring, so different scoring mechanisms and how they affect gameplay and the enjoyment of games. So basically, we'll be talking a lot about beating James by 1 point. Especially with him not here. So, before we get to that, though, we want to talk about some news and what we've been playing. So, a lot going on in the news, a lot of things I could talk about, but I want to keep it short. So, I'm going to go over some of the Gen Con preview, since at the time of the recording, Gen Con's about to get started. One of the ones that I'm really excited about is the Fox experiment that's coming out in September. And
I was wondering if this was when it was coming out, because we played the kind of the preview a while back.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside of getting to try out games early. Is like you're waiting a long time sometimes before they actually come out. But yes, if you're interested in this game, you can check out our early preview. It is basically, it's Beth Sobel for one. Elizabeth Hargrave. Is the designer, and it's taking the concept of of trying to raise foxes to be friendlier and breeding them to be basically domesticating them. And it has little elements of roll and write and drafting, and it's really a fun, light game.
Well, and it's based on a historical experiment, like an actual scientific experiment. So, which was really interesting.
Another big title that's coming out in September is Expeditions. This is the sequel to Scythe. And it sounds like it focuses a lot on, where in Scythe you have those little huts you can explore to get little bonuses. It sounds like it's expanding that concept a lot. So it's focusing on the exploration and, finding things to boost your mechs and get resources and basically exploration. And let me double check the date. I think Freelancers is Q3. Nope, it is out now. As of this recording on August 3rd, it is supposed to be released. Now, Freelancers sounds like it's Forgotten Waters in the Wall-E version of Earth. So you're doing jobs, basically freelance gigs on a Earth that is pretty much entirely built of garbage. There's no economy left, and you're just trying to survive. It, like Forgotten Waters, it's roleplay heavy. I believe it will be app assisted. I am not 100% on that, but so you go same concepts of Forgotten Waters. You're going to be revealing these locations. You have different tasks you can do at these locations. Which tasks you can choose determines what's going to happen. And coming in, gotta look up my dates. The next one I'm really excited is Arc Nova Marine Worlds. This is coming Q4, so towards the end of the year. And I was really dubious of this because Arc Nova is a lot like Terraforming Mars in that it has a massive deck of cards, and I was worried about diluting the deck by adding more cards. But it specifically addresses that in the description of the game. It talks about having elements to help cycle the cards faster to deal with that dilution. So they've clearly taken on that as a consideration. So I am positive about this. I'm hoping it's good. Uh, those are the main ones. I guess we have talked about Everdell Far Shore. That may be released at Gen Con. They didn't say officially, they just said they're hopeful. We've talked about that on the show already. Don't need to get into that. We talked about Sworn a lot, and that's going to be releasing in a month or so. Lost Ruins of Arnax getting a new expansion. Cascadia is getting a new expansion. And they're just getting, it's looking at next year for the one more that I'm excited about, which is Innovations Ultimate. So this is make sure Carl Chuddick, I believe I said that right. It's one of those games that you're just playing cards and wild things can happen. You're combo building, engine building, and the game can end in 5 minutes. It could take 15 minutes. Actually, here they say 30 to 60, but it can go super fast. It's completely unpredictable, very aggressive, but fun. Those are the ones I'm most excited about Gen Con preview. Was there any news that you were looking at, Evan?
I got a couple, but I'm going to talk about two. So going in along with your Elizabeth Hargrave news, they also just announced just before Gen Con, AEG announced a new game that was created by her and Mark Wooten, Undergrove. So each player is going to be playing as a Douglas fir, and you're going to be trying to grow mushrooms upon yourself. Along a lot of in the vein of a lot of the games that they produce with her. Looks really, really, real pretty, but definitely has the Earth kind of theme to it. And from the little description and stuff that I read, it's supposed to be area control in cube conversion style game. So you're trying to collect as many popular species of mushrooms, showcase the symbiotic relationship between trees and fungi. I have a friend that is starting a mushroom business. So it's probably going to be really up his alley. I'm excited to give that one a try. It just looks really, really neat. And a lot of those games that they put out with her as designer in under that manufacturer are they're really accessible games, so it's going to be really, really nice. So I'm excited for that one. Another one that I saw that is getting another expansion. It's a game that we've actually tried multiple times, but due to scheduling problems, we haven't put it back onto the schedule. We've tried in person and virtual, and it just never works. But it is a very popular game. It is called Obsession. So Obsession is getting a new expansion. And in the expansion, it is actually just adding more people, more guests, and more things that you can add to it. So that was the two big things that I've got. I saw you posted something, Peter, earlier about the news.
Yeah, so I've got a couple things that, or a few things, two things that I'm super like excited about. If again, everybody knows like I'm more into the tabletop role playing scene than the board games. So a Kickstarter that I had backed about a year ago or so, early this week, released the PDF version to all the backers. So that's pretty much all I've been thinking about the last couple of days, and that is MCDM's Flea Mortals, the monster manual. And it's a monster manual for the 5e game. So it's fantastic. It's beautiful. The art in it is fantastic. I just can't stop looking through the PDF. Can't wait to get the hardcover later at the end of the year. They also have another part of that book that kind of spun off, and that book is going to be coming out in PDF form in September, and it's called Where Evil Lives, and it's going to have 22 one-shot dungeons, each one ending in a epic boss battle for levels from 2 all the way up through 20. So I am super excited about that because it took what they thought was going to be like a small part of the Flea Mortals book and turned it into a book all in its own. And so I can't wait to get a hold of that when that releases. But those two things are massive. And then the other two things that I wanted to mention real fast is some Free League Publishing news. We know that I love Free League Publishing's RPGs, and the One Ring second edition they just announced is going to get another expansion book, and that is Moria: The Long Dark. So of course I cannot wait to get the opportunity to go dungeon delving into Moria. Hopefully we will run into the Balrog. So that's super exciting. Really glad that they're continuing to produce stuff for that. And then also they have for Vesson, they have a new campaign book that's going to be coming out, the Lost Mountain Saga, which is actually really cool. Back during the dark days of COVID, there was a YouTuber / Twitch person who decided to run a game of Vesson. They created their own lore and everything for it, and then they produce it, I think, as like I said, on Twitch, but then also as a podcast. Maybe it might have been podcast only, I can't remember for sure. But it did really well, and they decided to work with Free League Publishing, and they are putting out a book based on that campaign. So I'm really excited about that because I really love the Vesson books. But so far it's mostly just a bunch of one shots that you could tie together for sure, but this I think will be really their first, here is a campaign based on Vesson. Really excited about that. I think the art for that game is awesome, and we have done a Vesson game here on this channel before, which was a good time. And then they do have a couple more books that are going to be coming out, or expansions that are going to be coming out for their Blade Runner, the role-playing game also. So super excited about all those things. That'll take me through probably early 2024 next year with a lot of things that I can't wait to get my hands on.
Excuse me. Yeah, that all sounds pretty exciting. Let's talk about games we've played recently. I only have one to talk about. That is the remake for Ethos called Archaeo Society. Now, I haven't played Ethos, so I can't really compare the two, but from my understanding, Ethos had a lot more interaction and had some, actual competition between players. This is a much more laid back. There is very little player interaction in this game. Basically, it's set collection. When you get a good enough set, you can put it down to be able to move up on a track. However, the downside of that is when you put down a set, you lose everything that's left in your hand, and that goes available for other people to take. So that's a pretty interesting mechanic. The other really big cool thing about it is there is a lot of variety in it, because you play with 6 different card types. There are 12 in the game, and you can have all sorts of combinations of card types out of that, as well as there are 6 tracks that you can go up on, and each of them have an advanced side that you can flip over and change up the game. So a lot of variety in this game. As an individual play, it's good, but the variety all that adds really makes the replaying of it very strong. My one downside of it needs player aids. I'm really annoyed it doesn't have any sort of player aid in this game.
Oh, that's interesting. They didn't provide any sort of like rules player aids.
Just the back of the rule book, so you can't
Oh.
share it. You just have to copy it for people.
Yeah, and honestly, it's odd because that's a very commonly provided piece of material in almost every game. I wonder what kind of decision making went into something like that.
The only thing I can think of is because there's a lot of different combinations, they didn't want to have to put every single combination on the rule book, on the
Okay.
player aid.
Right.
But I think there could have figured out a way to make that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Evan, have you had any games you've been playing recently?
So I'll talk about a couple that I played recently. I was just looking up my stats since I log all the games I play anymore, so I can remember stuff. Most of the games that I played recently, I've already talked about before, so it's going to be pretty quick. So this last weekend, I actually ran 2 games of Blood on the Clock Tower. What was really nice with them is up to this point, a lot of the games that I ran were on the smaller side of like 7 to 8 people. The smallest one that I ran this weekend was 9 in it, and the larger one had 13. So
That's a
both went
lot.
really.
That's a lot of players.
13 was it ran about a little over with the teach of how things went, and a lot of the people never playing it before. The teach went about 30-ish minutes, and people having some
Yeah.
specific questions. But once it got rolling, it went about 2 hours there. And it was fantastic. Finger pointing, like accusations, lies on top of lies, and elaborateness. It went super well. And it was great watching the players kind of figure out with the little bits of information who the demon was, and they were able to successfully get the demon before they were halfway through the demon killing everybody. So that worked out really well.
Awesome.
I really felt sorry for my one friend that was in there. He was the Scarlet Woman and was doing really well, and then all of a sudden somebody accused him of something, and everybody just rolled over him really hard. It was fantastic. The other one went about 9 hours. The evil team won. They played a masterful game. It was fantastic. So I got that this last weekend. And then we had Library Game Day not that long ago too.
Yep.
I got a couple games in that I actually played in. I played Fistful of Meeples, which I've talked before, Moncala style game, which is very unique in the Moncala style game
It's a good one.
segment. That every single meeple you drop is actually doing something as opposed to the last one. Really excited anytime I can get that to the table, and especially now that there's an expansion coming out really soon. It's going to be really cool. And the other one that I got to play too was Steam Up, A Fist of Dim Sum. Played that one. Great, very lightweight game where you're getting dim sum out of steamer pots and trying to fill your board to get the most points. That one I can teach that game at this point probably in about 10 minutes, and we can finish a game within under an hour, even with 5 people. We only played with 3 there, but it went really well. The game doesn't look like much to a lot of people, but for how little it is, there's actually a lot of fun and thinking that goes into it too. So it kind of hits a lot of great high points. And I know Nathan's interested in that one.
Sure.
So for me, let's see. I've been playing recently with Evan, The King's Dilemma, which I'm sure you've talked about on here before as well. Really enjoying that game. It's really nice doing a board game that really relies a lot on kind of role play and discussion and backstabbing and thinking that you kind of understand what people want to do, and then you're wrong, and it backfires horribly on you. It's been really fun. I've liked it a lot, and so it's got me excited for when Evan backs the Queen's Dilemma or whenever that shows up. I'm super excited about that. So been enjoying that a lot. Also got to introduce 2 friends to Shards of Infinity via the online Steam edition, and really enjoyed that deck builder. I think it's a lot of fun. The theme is not, I guess, not overly my favorite theme, but I still enjoy the art quite a bit. I like the play style a lot. And because it's available online as a digital version, it's a game that I can play with friends all over, which makes me very happy. So got to do that as well. And I'm slowly working my way right now every couple of weeks or so through a replay. This is my second time through doing a Star Wars Imperial Assault campaign that I'm doing with some friends online as well. And so if you like getting some Star Wars character miniatures onto the board and then have all the big bad guys, it's got a nice big ATST miniature with it. Then if you like that kind of thing, you're chucking dice, running around a board. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I like the variability. Like I said, this is my second time through this campaign, and we've already played at least one or two scenarios that I didn't play last time, which is a lot of fun. And this time I'm playing as the Empire, so I get the fun job of being all the bad guys. Liking that quite a bit. It's a lot of fun. And I just got the physical version. It was a trade-off with James. So I now have the Star Wars Imperial Assault physical edition. So it's been good, liking that. A lot of fun games.
Well, let's get into our topic of scoring ethos. So, a lot to talk about, a lot of opinions, I'm sure, of what makes good scoring in a game. And let me pull up my list of things to talk about. Where'd it go? It's here. Okay, so perhaps we should start with hidden scoring. So generally this takes the form of end game scoring. Sometimes it's mixed with mid game scoring, so you have like a certain amount of scoring that happens during the game, and at the end you reveal, oh, you thought you were winning because of the score shown, but I have all this extra scoring that you didn't even know about. So I would like to get our thoughts on like in-game scoring versus end game and how that really affects the enjoyment of a game.
So I'll go ahead and start with that. I have absolutely zero problems with like hidden objective scoring, any of that. There's no problems with that. The key part with it, though, is if you're going to have any kind of hidden information in your scoring, you need to have some kind of public also. To have all the scoring hidden away where your best guess is going to come from how many times I played this game, so I know what kind of scoring may be out there, doesn't really lead that game to be accessible for people that have only played it once or twice. And it really leans into the people having multiple plays through the game. You have to have, if you're going to do one, you have to do the other. I feel hidden to public. I really think that if you do hidden scoring by itself, it's not a great way to go with a game.
So basically, you need enough to give the person an idea who might be winning. You don't want to wild guess.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be like. I like how like Sagrada does it, where there's 3 public objectives and you have your hidden one, but the hidden one is worth way more than what the public ones are going to be worth.
Right.
That's perfectly fine. But if you were to reverse that and have 1 public and 3 major ones that were hidden, then it really turns into what can I remember off of, what's really going to be the scoring things off of what I remember from playing this game. So it's not really, I would lean more to me having the experience of playing this game versus trying to teach somebody new going into it. I don't think the scoring really works well for them at that point. I have an idea where I'm going to go with that. Well, you're completely wrong because you chose poorly. Now you're scoring 7 versus everyone's 93. And then you can lead into issues, which I'm sure we'll talk about with one of the games that's actually behind you, Nathan, that I've said a couple of different times.
Yeah, I like having a little bit of both open and hidden. I think the vast majority of games that I love have a mixture of the two. And whether, I guess, I don't think it bothers me whether one of those is maybe more to the forefront or is providing the majority of the scoring. I just like to have a little bit of both, because with that, with the open, I feel like I can start to see how other players are doing. And so I can respond to that if the game allows for that. But at the same time, I like the surprise at the end. I like being surprised then that somebody is doing so well on something else that I somehow, maybe sometimes you can pick up on kind of what maybe they're doing. Like Evan said, if you've played the game enough. But if you've not, then it's really cool sometimes to be surprised when you think, oh, this person doesn't seem like they're doing all that great. And everything was all for them. It was all about the hidden objective. It was all about that hidden scoring that was going on in the background. And I think that can be a lot of fun. I like my games to have a little bit of mystery. I do not like a game as much when I can see all the scoring all the time, because especially if I'm getting crushed, and I'm seeing that on the board, it takes a little bit of the enjoyment away, just watching it and watching the lead go so far out and I can't do anything about it. Even if I am getting crushed by maybe hidden objectives, I don't know that yet. So then it's fine. Like I get surprised. Oh man, I got absolutely smashed. That happens, but to watch it happen the whole time and not have anything I can do about it, I feel like is it's just not as much fun. So I like the open and hidden mixed. I guess if I had to choose a game that was only open or only hidden, that's a tough question. I guess I'd probably go hidden, just again because I don't like to know that I'm getting crushed while I'm still playing it. I don't know. Do you guys have any thought on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. That one or the other doesn't work all that well. The big danger for all open is, as you were saying, it's like you could know you have no chance of winning, and that's not fun. On the other hand, the hidden, if you have too much hidden information, you lose that end game reveal. It's like you thought you were winning, just slap down the cards and say,
Yeah.
no, you did not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the games that we've done and we've talked about a bunch of times. Concordia has that problem of, I think I'm doing okay. Well, here's 15 cards that show no, you weren't at all, and it pulls that away really badly to someone.
Yeah, it's another one that if you've played it enough and you watch the cards that people are purchasing, you can kind of start to figure it out. But like you said earlier, Evan, that's not as much fun. It's not as inviting to new players, because if they don't, that first time I played Concordia, I did not know what was happening. I didn't know any way of how to keep track of who was getting which cards. And really, even if I had known which cards they got, I wouldn't have known enough to know if that meant anything really. So it's weird because it's semi, there's open information if you know what to look for and if you can actually remember it. If you can remember what cards people have purchased, then you kind of start to get an idea. But it's a tough one to really know how well you're doing until the very end. And so I'm with you. I enjoy the game. I enjoy the game a fair bit. It's part of my collection. But the scoring part of it always throws me because I lose track so quickly as to how well am I actually doing.
Yeah, you can see my first playthrough of Concordia. It was recorded.
It's on the channel. You can watch it.
I really didn't know what was going on until about halfway through the game, and at that point, it was way too late. And I was like, "Well, I'm just going to keep on building right around in the entire world here because that's what I've been doing."
Right.
And I thought, hey, scoring wise, I think I'm doing pretty good. And then the end scoring came, and I'm like, "Wow, I just got crushed horribly."
Yeah, I totally agree. That is a common problem with that. When you teach that game, you really have to emphasize the scoring and
Mm-hmm.
how that happens, just to give them a rough idea what they're doing, but they're still not going to understand it till you actually do the scoring at the end of the game.
Yeah, but
Now,
it's got to be a big part of the teach though to give them any kind of shot.
now one game that is completely open scoring, and I think it does it fairly well with that. And it's a game I know both of you have played. Is Merchant's Cove. So the game is completely wide open in the scoring. You know everything's going, but I think where it really works is there's so much other things that are going on
Mm-hmm.
between asymmetric boards, putting the patrons into the ships and sending them down, that you can't just focus on where I'm at and
Yeah.
where's everyone else is at. So if you're going to have an open scoring, if you put enough layerage in between the scoring and what you're doing, I think would be the way I would say it.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
you don't mind.
No, I totally agree with you there. Like you said, it's right there on the board. You can see exactly how well you're doing or how poorly you're doing, but you have a lot of other decisions to make as you play the game. So you remain actively engaged in the game, which makes you not pay as much attention to the scoring. But when the scoring happens, and then also you do focus in on it, like you said, it's just very open. And it can be, again, it can be a little bit disheartening if you watch yourself doing poorly, but it's all worth it if you end up beating James by 1 in the end. So,
Which you did. I
which
mean,
I
because
did.
that game was definitely a Peter cursing the game because James was doing so well to turning out to actually winning.
Yep.
And I think that was just because we focused on a couple other things that were going on, and
Right.
we were able to take it to James, and that's always a good time.
I mean, that is one thing to say about an open score is you do get to see how well everybody's doing. And if you want to team up on somebody, you can. So
Somebody being James.
somebody being James.
The other way that you can make an open scoring work well is like with an engine builder or somewhere where the scoring ramps up. You just have to be careful where to make sure it's not to the point where the early scoring is completely irrelevant. But
So
you want it to point where it's like a fair amount of scoring is at the end.
yeah. So I think that's something that I wanted to make sure to mention because I don't know if I saw it on some of the notes that we shared before we were going to do the discussion was open scoring games that have catch up mechanics make me a little bit happier. So I had never heard the term catch up mechanic until we played Quacks of Quedlinburg. That was the first time I think I'd played other games that had it or had something similar, but I didn't really actually know what it was. I didn't know there was a term for it. And the fact that it's so in your face because you have the rat tails on the scoring board that indicate like how you're getting this catch up mechanic and how it plays out. So that I appreciated because again, you have a game that understands, okay, we have an open score system. People can start to lose pretty bad. There's a lot of luck to Quacks of Quedlinburg. There's the chance that you could do really poorly and start losing. So here's a way to give you a bonus if you're doing poorly. And so I find that if I'm doing an all open scoring game, I like if it has some sort of catch up mechanic in case somebody really starts to get crushed. And that way you're less discouraged. You're more likely to want to come back and try that game again.
I agree. A favorite game here in my house is Cavern Tavern by Final Frontier Games. And what I like with that one, it's a worker placement, dice placement game. And every round, whoever is in last place gets an extra die. So anytime that you play any kind of worker placement, dice placement game, getting one extra is huge. Absolutely huge. And just to flat out say, you're losing, here you go. Here's an extra action effectively. Here's an extra something. That's big. And it can really even out a game. It is great, especially for people if you're teaching people this game for the first time, for them to have that little extra bit, they're going to absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think it works really well for quacks. Catch-up mechanics, though, seem like they would be hard to design so they don't feel like it's unfairly rewarding somebody for not doing well. But with a push your luck game, it really feels more like a compensation for having bad luck.
Right.
So I feel fine with that one.
Yep.
And there's a lot of games where if there's a a turn order advantage where you can work that in, so the catch-up mechanic is you manipulate the turn order based on who's winning or losing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that works really well.
Yeah, like you said, you don't feel like it's just a big reward for not doing well. Because
Yeah,
that can start to feel unfair also.
I've seen games where it's just, oh, you draw a card and it says the person in the last place gets 10 points. And that doesn't feel fair.
No,
that just feels awful.
Right. Okay.
That doesn't feel earned.
Right.
No, give them options on how or something what they can do, and then at that point, then you put them in the driver's seat, so to speak, and it just feels more complete into the game as opposed to you did kind of crappy, so we're going to spot you 10 points.
Yeah.
Hooray.
So I got a scoring mechanic I love to complain about.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Playing away.
Games with multipliers, where I had one game, it was called City Hall. And but it's basically if I remember right, you take your political seats times your appeal or something like along that line, and you're actually doing complicated math at the end of the game to get your points. A couple other games like that. I think Bremenhaven was the other one where you're bringing ships into your dock and trying to ship them out through trucks. I believe that was the name of the game. And at the end of the game, again, doing multipliers, and your scores can be in the thousands.
That's weird.
Which, one, takes a long time.
Right.
And it's not really satisfying to have a 600-point difference between first and second place.
No.
It takes all the fun out of the game at the very end when you want to have the biggest bang.
I honestly, I want addition and subtraction. I don't want to get into, even though I don't think multiplication or division is difficult, I'm just with you. All of a sudden it feels very unnecessary. Like there could have been tons of other ways to work out a scoring mechanic that then did not involve multiplication or division. Subtraction, addition is as difficult as it needs to get. So, and I'm not sure. I'm sure I probably have played games that had multipliers. I can't think of any right off the top of my head. But there's probably some. I know. You see, I'm going to take this back. Concordia again, maybe might be a little bit in there.
Yes.
Yeah, Concordia does have some. Again, not my favorite. When the scoring of the game takes more than about 5 minutes, I start to wonder, is this too complicated? It's not specifically hard. It's doable. I just want to, when the game's over, I want to know who won. I don't want to do a whole nother game to find out who won.
Yeah. I love Concordia, but that's definitely my least favorite part. Yeah, and you're right. It's actually all pretty much multipliers at the end.
Yeah, also I was thinking about, I was like, I think that's probably the game that I've played the most that had multipliers in the scoring mechanic.
It's generally not huge numbers and not terrible to do, but it still takes a while.
Yeah, if the game has multiple steps for scoring, as long as they laid it out really well to do it, which I have a couple good examples of that, I'm fine with it. But going back to the multipliers, there's one example that it just blows my mind that they did this. So it's a game I got from James after he reviewed it, Happy City, and it's a real simple, basic game that you're trying to build the happiest city. You collect income and you buy buildings for your city. As soon as somebody gets the 10th building into their city, the game goes into scoring. And the scoring is done by you multiply the number of citizens by the number of hearts on the card. If you look at the game and you play through the game, this game is a game that is actually decently fun for 6 to 8 year old players. 10 and it's built for 10, according to the box and to the website and everything. But why are we multiplying? If you are putting a game out to that kind of level, why are we putting a scoring mechanism that we're multiplying two numbers? And we're talking like numbers that are easily 10, 12, 14. I mean, we're not talking like 4 times 6. We're talking I'm going to get 12 times 16. Which is not a hard number to multiply, but like, we're adults. We should be able to multiply those numbers. Hand that to an 8-year-old to figure out, you're going to have more of an issue. So there had to have been a better way to do scoring in a game like that, instead of going, hey, here's a little more complex math than you probably have learned so far in school. Have at it.
You actually, not really related, but you reminded me of a scoring mechanic that wasn't on our list to talk about, is the idea of hit 10 points, the game immediately ends.
Yep.
Dune Imperium's a good one for that, which actually goes back to our hidden versus
It does.
open scoring, because I love that in Dune, once you hit 10 points, the game's over.
Maybe.
But
you do have to watch. There's a small chance somebody might have a hidden score. And you can see that they have those cards. So you know it's a possibility, but you don't know if they actually have anything.
The thing that I do enjoy about that, because I was thinking about that earlier as well, is so you have the intrigue cards, and there are a handful or so intrigue cards that are end game bonus points / you could maybe even use them earlier, but if you do, then you forego the end game scoring. So I like that the end game scoring, even though it's hidden, it has the possibility of being utilized beforehand anyways, if the person sees the cost, like they weigh the cost benefit reward thing and they decide to use it, or there is a mechanic within the game where intrigue cards can be stolen by other players if you're not watching your hand limit of intrigue cards. If you're not watching out how many you have, there's the chance that somebody might steal it and take your end game score. So it's not like it's tied to just one player. It's random who even gets those cards, if they even show up. And then there's the possibility that they might use it beforehand or even lose it beforehand. So I like that. Dune Imperium has a really well laid out open and hidden scoring, and I like it quite a lot.
Muted.
You're muted, Evan.
And to hit the opposite end of that, of a game with public scoring that ends at 10, would be Moonrakers. So it's all public. You know where people were scoring on that, and you know the first person to hit 10 is going to win this. And you have to build your deck and your entire thing based around, I got to build these alliances with people so I can get points early and build up my mechanisms.
Right.
So that when I get to 8 or 9 fame, I can solo this, because nobody's going to help me to win the game. Obviously.
Exactly it.
So I need to be able to do that. And I think that's a great way to really handle that.
It's a really
open scoring in that.
Yeah, it's a really cool way to do it, to entice people to help each other early on. But you do, all of a sudden, it's like, it feels like, oh yeah, we're all chugging along. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah. Nathan's at 7 and I'm at 3.
It's starting to get real. Something's going on here. No, that one's a really fun game. With that little bit of tug of war between how friendly do I want to be, or can I afford to be, and still hopefully pull out a win here.
Yeah, I need to get the parts off my ship, so I need this money.
Yep.
But I can't afford to help Peter because he's going to get 2 more fame, and that's going to put him at 9.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no, it's a good example of that open scoring and it being done very well.
The next scoring mechanic I have on my list to talk about is point salad. So this is the concept of pretty much everything in the game scores you something.
Okay, I was gonna say because I've heard of point salad as well as the game just called point salad, and I have not played that game. But what's a good example that you think, Nathan, of a point salad game other than the game called Point Salad?
Seven
I've
Wonders a little bit.
I have a good one that will lead into my point for point salad. Earth. So
Oh,
everything
yes.
that you're playing on your tableau, 99% of it is going to score you points in one of like the 8 or 9 categories you're scoring points for.
Yep.
And when it comes to point salad, I think a lot of people have issues with sometimes it can get complicated on how you're going to score the game at the end because it can lead to 200-300 point games. And what I was going to bring up later, but I guess I'm going to bring up now is as long as you have a good laid out system to score the points. Like if you look at the scoring tab for Earth, it lays it out right here. We're doing this first, score your points right down the line. Granted, you're going to have 8 numbers that you're going to have to total at the end, but in modern day technology, we all carry the thing that your grade school math teacher
Calculator,
said you would
yep.
never have around and have to do it. We have
Right.
calculators with us at all times. Granted, I could add these up in 25 seconds myself, or I could spend 8 and run it through my calculator and I have it. So as long as there's a good, clear, we're on step 1, we're scoring just this. Step 2, we're scoring this. It works fine.
Yeah, Earth was tough for me. I mean, I only played it the one time, but I think the big thing there was so many things that were scoring. I definitely forgot about like 2 of them. And so all of a sudden I got to the end and I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. And then I'm like, oh, 2 big goose eggs here with 2 zeros because I totally forgot about this whole aspect of scoring. So I think you do possibly run into with a point salad game having too many things that people have to remember. That's where the complexity lies in a point salad game is, okay, everything's going to earn you points, but are there too many things that are going to earn you points? So a game that balances it very well and being point salad, Wingspan. Everything is earning you points in that game. Your whole tableau, the eggs that you have on your cards, how all sorts of things earning you, but there's not that many. That's you have the same thing that Evan was talking about. It's very well laid out. These are the things that we're going to worry about and we're going to score them. And there's maybe like 4 or 5 or something like that. I don't find that one hard to remember what all is going to be scoring me points at the end of the game. I've got my hidden agenda. Possibly I might have 1 or 2 hidden agendas. But other than that, I don't find that one to be too difficult. And again, Earth might not be so bad if I play it again. But that very first playthrough, I was definitely lost in a bit of the complexity of what all was going to be scored at the end of that game. So I think I just think you have to, if you're going to do point salad, you got to find, like Evan said, you got to lay it out real nice and neat for everybody to know. And you can't have it be so many things that I start to lose track.
Yeah. And back to what Evan was saying, it's like what you don't want in a point salad is everybody sitting there by themselves and tallying their own points and spending 5 minutes figuring out the points. What you do need is, like Evan said, the little piece of paper with the total scores, so you can have people announce what they scored at each thing. So it's like, you scored how many points at eggs?
Exactly. And one too that works really well with it. You don't gain a whole lot of points in the game, but it lays it out really well. Ex Libris does a great job with that because they put the scoring like dry erase board that has it all laid out like as part of the game, because in that game, you're trying to vie to be the next grand librarian. Well, we have to figure out how well you did with your library, and like they kind of push it into like a fun way of scoring that really takes part of the game, as opposed to like, all right, get your score sheet out and we're going to figure this out. Like they called it like the official librarian like application scoring sheet and put like a document number on there and you're like filling it out. Like just that little extra bit, like it just helps it makes it more interactive to do it that way. You
Yeah,
don't
I
have
like
to do it
that.
that way, but like just having it laid out just makes it great. Because like you said, Nathan, you scored what in hoop-de-doos?
Yeah.
Then we're talking about that for a minute or two.
Hmm.
And it just it adds a little bit more to the funness. The downside to point salad style games, though, is it leads to a higher possibility of runaway games. And I know that's one of the things that we were going to talk about eventually, but I might as well bring it up now because it fits. Is when you have a game that you can easily lap people or score 100 more points than somebody else versus those close games where you're beating James by one. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I absolutely relish in those super close victories of 1 or 2 points. Those feel so much better to me than I beat somebody by 150 points. I sometimes feel bad about it. Like I've played games with my wife and I'm like, oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And then we're scoring and I'm like, I'm 100 points ahead and we're not even through all the scoring. And I'm like, I don't even really want to finish scoring this game. Versus when we played Steam Up on Library Game Day, I beat James by one. And I had to make sure I interrupted Peter's Monopoly game to tell him I beat him by one.
And I appreciate that you interrupted my game so that I could know and relish in the fact that you beat him by one. So I'm with you, though, and I can tell Nathan is as well. There is nothing better than when at the end of the game it's so close that there's actual drama and tension happening. When like again, you get the Dune Imperium, and you get that you're down to the last thing. You get a couple people within 1 point of each other, and if somebody does have one of those intrigue cards and they just get to go over, there's that drama of the reveal, or again that the tension that there might be a reveal, and even if there's not a reveal, then all of a sudden it's like like that was fun. A game that ends in a massive difference with no drama, it could have still been a fun game, but that ending is a little bit of a letdown. And yes, Nathan was grabbing Blood Rage, and the last couple of times Nathan, James, and I have played Blood Rage, Nathan has slaughtered us when it comes to points. And it's again, it can be fun. We enjoyed playing, but I love it when you get the drama at the end as well. So I much prefer a close game than a shutout.
Yeah. And to be fair, when James was visiting, he did beat me at Blood Rage. So,
oh, good for James. I wasn't there probably to hamper him in his efforts.
James is not allowed to win. It's
I don't know. I have a tough time. Sometimes I really like to beat James, but I also really like to beat Nathan.
Yeah. After I beat you a couple of times in Blood Rage, you definitely want to beat me.
I need that win at some point because you have just crushed me the last few times.
I think that's the only time that like big point differences can be satisfying is if you've lost badly in a previous game.
Right. All of a sudden to be doing really well feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The next scoring mechanic would be minimalist scoring. So this is games where the end game score might be 5 or less, where you really have to work turn after turn just to get one single point. So what are your thoughts on that style game?
Patchwork, I hate you.
button economy. So a variation of that is one that's right behind you, Nathan, Arc Nova, where a winning game of that, you could have 3 points versus someone with -6. You work an entire game to effectively only get really not many points. I mean, you're gaining a lot, but when it comes down to the actual scoring of it, you don't have a lot. And I've said it numerous times on the channel. I like Arc Nova. I don't like its scoring because I think it is a turn off to people coming into that game, because it's complex and it's hard. And then I worked all that time, and whether I win or lose, whatever. But if I spent all that time and all that effort and all that energy over 3 hours to score -12, I don't feel good.
I'm sitting here, and all of a sudden thinking of sports, and I love this sport. So I'm going to say that out front. I love soccer. But dear Lord, after 90 minutes of playtime, when nobody has scored and tying counts, like you can just end in a tie and nobody wins at all, that can feel sometimes like a bit of a letdown. Now, I've watched games that have ended 0-0 and still really enjoyed watching the drama of the game. But I'm with you, Evan. Like, it can be really upsetting to work so hard to try to win a game and walk away with negative points. Again, I hate you, Patchwork. Negative points are rough. Like, it is. There's nothing more demoralizing than walking away and being like, you mean I didn't even score 0?
Well, Arc Nova, I do like the scoring personally, but I put it in a different category. I put it as subtractive scoring. So you're looking at the difference from one of how well you did here versus how well you did here. So yes, but the positive end of that is you are progressing significantly throughout the game. It's just, a lot of it's about timing, how the game, the last minute at ending, what triggers the end of the game. It also makes it very easy to, at the very end of the game, you can very quickly see who's the winner. You don't have to spend really any time figuring out what the scores are. A lot of what I was thinking more along the lines of Pipelines one, basically the heavy Euro games, and the frustrating things with some of these heavy Euro games with like single point scores where it can be very frustrating. You work for 10 minutes to get this 1 point, and then somebody does something that gets in your way, and suddenly that whole 10 minutes was for absolutely nothing.
Yes, I would also hate that.
Yeah, the
Especially,
couple like building an engine and then but to get that 1 or 2 points, and then it just gets completely ruined. Like
Yeah.
3 turns from now, I can do that to do this to get this, and then somebody just like, oh, no, I'll put this guy here, and you're like, great.
or games where you can build up all this iron and other resources, and then right before you're about to turn in this iron for all these points, somebody steals a bunch of it.
Yep.
Or economy tanks the prices of it, and it's not worth it.
Yeah. The next one I had on my list is Knizia. He is pretty much his own
Bless you.
scoring mechanism.
Yeah, bless you, right? Oh goodness. So give us some examples of his games, Nathan.
So Knizia is Tigris and Euphrates, Yellen Yancey's, that whole series. He's done tons of games, but basically, Nova Luna. No, that's Uwe Rosenberg.
Do you have to feed people?
The idea of most Knizia games is you have multiple types of scoring units. Only the one that you scored the least in matters. So, like in Tigris or Euphrates, you have 4 different color of points, and at the end, you total up all your color that you had the least points in, and that's your score.
So one of my favorite 2-player games right now is Beer and Bread, which follows along with that. So you're brewing beer, baking bread. You can only do so much on a given time. You have all the resource management, three different uses for the cards. But once you score everything out, whichever you score the least in for your beer or your bread, which of those two, that's your final score. And I really like that. Now, I will say that's probably one of the first games that uses that kind of mechanic. I can't think of anything that I have that I played that uses that also. So only one is hard for me to say if I truly like that game. Do I like the game more than the scoring itself, or do I like that scoring? I can't really say for sure.
In my opinion, it does avoid one of the problems we didn't mention of point salad games, where sometimes in point salad games, if they're not that well designed, there might be all these different ways of points, but maybe only one of them really matters because it's the strongest point winner. With the Kinesia style, you have to diversify. You have to go for the other scoring methods. So it does constantly make you rethink your strategy and react to what's going on. I'm going to go for a classic game of, I'm going to read a review of one of these Gen Con games that has not come out yet.
Okay.
And get you to guess how they rated the game.
Oh, that's interesting. So you hear what they said about it, but you don't know what they actually scored.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
And I'll try to leave off the actual name of the game, so
Okay.
you can kind of maybe hopefully get there by guessing what the game is and then work that way there.
Okay.
Okay. So
how are we doing this? Are we doing back and forth?
Yes, let's do back and forth.
Okay.
Well, I'll let you each guess and I'll tell you what the actual answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah,
is.
no, that sounds good.
So, anyone who thinks this theme is worth sabotaging the game rating doesn't know very much about the designer. I look forward to trying this game, at which time I may adjust my rating, as should all the ignorant BGG morons. So the guy hasn't played the game, and he's calling other people who are rating the game who haven't played it morons. But what do you think he actually rated it? Or she?
So which one of us do you want to guess first?
Evan. Let's go with Evan first.
Whole numbers or fractions?
We'll just go with whole numbers. Well, whole numbers and halves. Let's go whole numbers and halves.
Okay. 2.
Ooh, okay. That's low. Yeah, that was way lower than I was going to go. I was going for probably like a 5.
This was a straight up 10.
Whoa. What? Yeah, the way that he worded that, or they worded that, I was assuming they were like, all of you people out there who just love this thing because you love the person making it or whatever, get with it. A 10, and you've never even played the game, and you're also bashing other people who are out there reviewing it.
Well, he's bashing people who are complaining about the theme of the game.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I was stuck on just complaining. Yeah.
Right.
And which game do you think this is, just for bonus points?
Ooh.
Since none of you got close.
That's okay.
Theme that people might get upset about.
Themes that people might get upset about.
Being released soon.
I'm gonna go with the one Evan talked about earlier, the Undergrove, the new Elizabeth Hargrave.
It is not, but you're close.
Oh, I was close, Evan. You got a guess?
Are we gonna go with Wingspan?
No, it's the other Elizabeth Hargrave one, the Fox Experiment.
The Fox Experiment. There we go.
So yeah, a lot of people are apparently complaining about the concept of experimenting on foxes. It is set in history, so it's a real thing that
Yeah,
happened.
It's a historical thing.
I don't know enough about the details to know if they were cruel to the animals. But
No.
from
I
the
was gonna say the game has no cruelty to animals involved. It's all
Right.
about you're choosing two different foxes to mate so that they breed a certain aspect. It has nothing to do with actually like being mean to these animals. Just so people know,
Yeah.
if you want to try to play this game, there's no actual like animal experimentation, air quotes,
it's
happening
basically
here.
raising foxes as if they were pets.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, so we both whiffed on that one.
Okay, that one
Though
is
I
super-
whiffed less.
That's all that matters.
Okay. This one is Can't Wait. Expected October 2023. Keep track of this. Buying it as soon as it comes out. Blank. Great. And after watching the preview at John GG, whatever that is, these 12 cards just add more fun.
Ooh, so it's an expansion of some kind. And only 12 cards are getting added? I'm going to jump in here first on this one. They sound so excited. You like, I want to go 10, but at the same time, I'm like, they might have just been really odd. Maybe they were being sarcastic. Let's go with a 4.
Evan, what do you think they rated it?
A 7.
You are very close. I'll give that one to you because it's an 8.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. All right. So
They can't wait for it to come out,
but only an 8.
and they're buying it the moment it comes out, but it's an 8.
But it's an 8. And do we have any possibility of guessing this, or is this going to be like just really hard?
Oh, you should be able to guess it.
Maybe.
Again, it's from the Gen Con previews.
Yeah, but I don't check out the Gen Con previews. I have no idea.
I did talk about a lot of them.
You did.
If you were listening.
I kind of did. No, no. There's a lot of them I didn't know, but
I don't think anybody.
I'm not sure.
Was that?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I'll just let you know. It's the Ark Nova Marine expansion.
Oh, okay. So it's coming. Is that all it is? Is 12 cards that are being added to the game?
I did not actually catch that when I was reading the actual synopsis, but it could be true.
Okay, that's interesting. I definitely like bigger expansions than just 12 cards being added to my game.
A lot of the other comments and reviews on this were complaining about the theme as well. You know,
okay,
people not liking zoos.
I mean, if it's going to be a micro expansion, I'm fine with that, as long as you're charging me a micro price for that.
Yes.
Like Deception Murder in Hong Kong, expansion away. As long as I'm paying like $8 or less for the 20 cards you're giving me, I'm okay with that.
All right, so Evan got a point for being very close.
Okay, so that's 1 point for Evan. So
yep.
The next one, you have a better chance of being able to guess the game. So that's basically the same game as blank. Few changes, no real improvements, seems even lighter than blank. Don't like the new ship tracks. Same obnoxious board and 3D structure. Same resource system, same card system, same 4 seasons, same worker placement elements, same crazy expensive price. And he goes on a little bit more, but so we'll start. Who's
Evan this time?
Yes, Evan this time. You can
I'm going to give it a 5.
Do you also want to try to guess the game?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with my tried and true 4 again.
Okay, it was a 5.
Oh my gosh!
Evan's got 2 points. So
up,
Peter,
Peter?
I'll let you try to guess the game first then.
Oh gosh, I have no idea. Yeah, no, I have no idea.
Evan,
Everdale?
what's the actual? Do you know the actual title?
Far Short.
Yes. I'll give you each half a point.
He would have got that. He would have gotten that if I gave him the second to think about it.
Okay, let's just do. See if
Which, oddly enough, that's actually kind of hard because neither Peter or I have played Everdale or Everdale Far Shore.
Yep, never played that game at all. I want to. It looks good.
Next week.
I have.
Stay tuned, people.
It is good. If you like Everdale, you will like this game. If you don't like Everdale, you might not.
Then
the scoring is a little bit.
Then why are you even talking about it? Person on BGG.
I kind of agree with the ship track that he was commenting on.
Okay.
It's easy to bump the ships and move them, but that's a minor complaint. It's overall, it's a really good game. Again, if you like Everdale, you will like this.
Okay.
I think that's probably good for now. It's
that's fine.
Quick notice, that's what I could find.
So Evan won. Well played. This has been a good discussion. I mean, lots of opinions on scoring, how score happened, when score happens. And I think, again, for me to sum it up for myself anyways, when it comes to scoring, I want my scoring to provide drama in the game. I think it makes for a much more fun experience if there is something about it that makes me laugh and or cringe and or be surprised because all of a sudden something gets flipped on its head a bit. And again, so when the game is fun, but the scoring itself adds to the drama of the game, I like it better.
And to add to Peter to that point, I like when a game's scoring continues the conversation I had in the game into the ending. If as you guys know, when I'm playing, I like to talk and banter and talk smack, but in a very fun way, as we all do. But I want my scoring at the end to be an extension of it. If I'm tallying stuff and we've got long sheets that we're figuring it out, I want to be able to talk smack that I got, 37 points to everyone else's 12 in this category. And likewise, I want to hear it when I score 4 to your 17. I play the games for moments like that, for pretty much our statement of what we do, the relationship and everything that the games can bring. And if scoring can do that as an extension to the game, then it's doing it well, whatever method that it has.
Absolutely. And what do you think about the scoring in the silly game where Evan ran away with it with 2 points?
Absolutely crushed it. If I could have gotten negative points, I would have.
I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you all for watching. Join us again on Tabletop Gaming Guild Show.